Good evening. Coming up tonight on the Action 4 update, narcotics agents have made a major drug bust.
Arson is suspected in a fire on the OU campus.
And we'll have this story.
They're lining up to get in. I'm Sherry Sellers, and all that story next on Action 4.
Move, since you filed your return, be sure to notify the post office of your change of address.
Good evening, I'm Gary Essex.
And I'm Linda Cavanaugh. One more step toward a murder trial was taken today in Cleveland County. 20-year-old Michael Harmon appeared before Special District Judge Mike McDaniel this afternoon. Harmon asked the judge for a delay on any further proceedings against him until he can hire an attorney. Harmon is accused of murdering Tamara Carter of Moore. The girl's body was discovered April 7th north of Norman. Harmon requested a 2-week delay while he searches for legal counsel, but Judge McDaniel granted him 1 week and said if that wasn't enough, he would consider the matter again on April 22nd. In other news, mail-order bride Ada Whittemire has pleaded no contest to a reduced charge of second-degree murder in the 1979 arsenic poisoning death of her rancher husband, 62-year-old John Whittemire. The 36-year-old woman was sentenced to 25 years in prison following the plea bargaining arraignment. The defendant and her late husband were married in 1976. John Whittemire was a member of a Lonely Hearts Club, and she had responded to an advertisement he had placed in a magazine seeking a bride. Whittemire also is charged in Dickinson, Tennessee for the poisoning death of her third husband.
Oklahoma narcotics agents have pulled off a major drug bust. A major processing lab for illegal PCB has been shut down. County officials, federal agents, and state troopers raided a house in Lincoln County last night and confiscated the illegal dope. 5 people have been arrested, a couple living near Chandler, 3 men from Oklahoma City. 47 pounds of finished PCP, or angel dust, was confiscated, and chemicals and equipment to process another 50 pounds were also seized. Total street value, $6 million. Officers working 10 months to crack the case considered a major drug bust coming on the heels of another drug seizure in Louisiana.
This laboratory was a major supplier of illicit PCP for the entire southwest United States. It is actually 3 times as large, or rather the capability and the amount of narcotics confiscated was 3 times that from the lab in New Orleans.
A former materials supplier, that was Police spokesman Tom Mundy. A former materials supplier has testified that he paid kickbacks to several county commissioners, including Oklahoma County Commissioner Ralph Adair and former Commissioner Frank Lynch. The testimony by Virgil Peary was the first linking Adair and Lynch in open court to the widening county commissioner scandal. Peary is the former owner of Midwest Steel and Supply Company. Linda?
Well, this is it, taxpayers. You've got just under 2 hours to get your income taxes postmarked April 15th. The IRS is expecting 20 million tax returns to go out tonight, and that's causing something of a run at the only open post office in town. Sherry Sellers is standing by with a live report on the bustling business. Sherry?
Linda, it's no secret here in Oklahoma City or anywhere else in the nation that time is running out. In fact, traffic here is lined up for blocks trying to get into the postal office. Now, this is the main post office, the only post office that is going to be open until midnight. And postal workers were expecting quite a crowd because they have 2 supervisors and 9 other workers, such as this man behind me, who are standing on the curbs taking the tax returns so the cars can just pass on by. And it's a good idea because I can't imagine what kind of traffic jam they'd have. They were all trying to get into the small parking lot and then lining up to get into the postal building. But things are going very smoothly out here. Now, besides the postal workers and those dropping off their tax returns, there's another group here, the Libertarian Party, and they're here to protest taxes. But unfortunately, they're not getting a very good response because those coming in are only concerned with getting in, dropping off their tax returns, and getting out. This is Sherry Sellers reporting live from the main post office.
Thank you, Sherry. Police say arson was the cause of a fire at a University of Oklahoma dormitory last night. The fire routed students from their beds about 2:30 this morning. Ted Brown has more on that story.
The fire at Sanger House was the topic of conversation on the campus today. No one was hurt, but many of the 50 or so students living in the dorm had a version of their narrow escape.
Well, I was working on an English paper, and it was about 2:30, and I smelled something strange, so I opened the door, and smoke just started pouring in the room in just a few seconds. And so first thing I did, I just pulled the alarm.
fire alarms went off, and I thought it was another prank, like in the past, but then I smelled the smoke, and so I got out of bed, and I felt the door, and it was cool and stuff, and I opened it, and the hallway was full of smoke. I turned around, grabbed my roommate, just dragged him off the bed.
I didn't even hear a bell. Roommate dragged me out of bed, and I opened the first door here. We have a double door. One was a fire door. First door was a cloud of smoke. The second door, I opened it up, and the heat just about pushed me back. I mean, there's a wall of flame here coming out of the lobby.
Everybody thought it was just going to be, you know, a
false alarm.
Prank,
False alarm,
but
prank.
This time, yeah, it was a real thing this time.
Students say the dormitory was plagued by false alarms every night last November. Last night, it was the real thing, and it was deliberately set.
No notes, no threats, and from talking to the residents, no apparent problems, personality conflicts, fights, disputes with other organizations, or anything else that would give us a motive. Very possibly, somebody intended to set a somewhat smaller fire, and it got out of hand.
The fire destroyed the lobby area of the dorm. It did $50,000 worth of damage, but thanks to quick thinking on the students' part, no one was hurt. Ted Brown, Action 4 in Norman.
And still to come on tonight's update, a mid-morning construction accident brings tragedy in East Chicago.
The British continue to call for forceful action against Argentina.
And the British give up another part of their empire.
The death toll stands at 11. The seriously injured, 20. They were construction workers on or under a ramp in East Chicago today that just gave way. One span of roadway snapped around 10:30 this morning. Less than 5 minutes later, another section caved in.
I turned around to help a laborer and a finisher finish a little cement. And I raised up and I hear something crack. I heard it crack real hard and I ran. And when I ran, I told this laborer, let's go. And I ran. I run 20 or 30 feet and I looked back. And when I looked back, I seen the laborer go. And it went like somebody dropped a bomb.
Indiana safety inspectors are at the site at this hour. The roadway was a major undertaking that would have connected streets on either side of the Indiana Harbor Ship Canal. The American Medical Association is saying that nearly every resident in the state of Michigan has been contaminated by toxic PBB. There was a major chemical accident in Michigan 9 years ago when the PBB found its way into livestock feed and subsequently into humans. Testing has now shown that 97% of all Michigan residents have some amount of the chemical in their systems. PBB is known to cause cancer in rats and is also blamed for other ailments as well.
Queen Elizabeth is on the North American continent tonight. The Queen is in Canada for a ceremony on Saturday that will officially cut Canada's last colonial bond to England. The Queen and Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau will sign a televised signing ceremony recognizing Canada's Constitution. Canada was one of the last remnants of the once global British Empire. And while the Queen is in Canada, Her Majesty's government continues to call for the withdrawal of Argentine troops from the Falkland Islands. Newspapers across Britain are calling for war now, if necessary, while a White House source in this country says the Argentine president has expressed a personal desire for a peaceful solution. Argentina has expelled those 32 Falkland Islanders, and they returned to Great Britain this afternoon. One woman tearfully declared, "I'm bloody well going back."
The bodies of 27 Americans have been flown to a NATO air base in southern Turkey. They were all killed when their C-130 transport plane crashed in some mountains in eastern Turkey earlier this week. The cause of that crash has not yet been determined, but aircraft malfunction may have been responsible. The dead Americans will eventually be flown to Dover Air Force Base in Delaware.
Egypt and Israel are working to resolve some last-minute problems before Israel completes its scheduled evacuation of the Sinai in only 10 days. Egypt, who's been something of an outcast among Arab nations since 1977, may rejoin the Arab fold after the Sinai is returned. But meantime, Saudi Arabia is urging the world's 800 million Muslims to put continued pressure on Israel. And Damascus Radio said today that, quote, all Arab rifles should be directed at the Zionist heart, unquote.
Wind was gusting quite a bit today and tonight, and Jim says part of the state may get some thunderstorms as well. He's up next with the weather.
For hockey fans, Bob Berry has National League playoff action.
And an Oklahoman waits 64 years for something very special. Windy enough for you today?
Oh, too windy.
Well, this makes about, what, 20 days in a row now.
Yeah, I think can you fix it up a little bit for us?
Well, we're going to try to fix that where it won't be quite so windy, but it will be a little bit breezy through tomorrow, but then dying down some. Tomorrow will be from the other direction, so make it feel a little better.
That makes all the difference in the world.
Well, we do have some activity on radar, but it's way over in the southeast. It's been over in this area all evening, mainly in McCurtain County, Pushpataha County. Activities moving northeast, heavy thunderstorms still in that area and also in southwestern Arkansas. And that has pretty much been the extent of the activity this evening in Oklahoma. There was some up in Kansas, very light activity over on this side, up to the north, north of Wichita, southeast of Salina, around Abilene, light showers, heavier activity earlier, just north of the border west of Wichita, but that has since dissipated and moved off to the northeast. Well, the present time, here's the way our current conditions look around Oklahoma. The air, which was quite dry that moved into the northwestern part of Oklahoma, has retreated. Moist air once again has returned all the way back to Gage, so the only dry area really is the panhandle, but very dry conditions back there. Humidity's in the low 20s, whereas the head of the front, or head of the pressure trough, or dew point line as we'll call it, humidities are quite high, 60s and 70% category. You can see temperatures mostly in the 70s with 68 degrees, one of the cooler readings now up at Enid, and 76 down the southwest at Altus, 75 over McAllister, and 77 at Tulsa for the warmest. We have 70 currently here in Oklahoma City. Now our winds have been gusting out of the south to south-southeast today, keeping that moisture here in Oklahoma. We have winds averaging around 20 miles per hour, whereas earlier they were up to 35 to 40 miles per hour. I think perhaps the winds have kind of inhibited the thunderstorms from developing very much along this dry line. So tonight we're going to still call for scattered showers and thunderstorms as this system continues to drift slowly eastward, but it's really not moving very fast. It probably will be tomorrow afternoon before it clears the state. So a chance for showers tomorrow will probably be ending by around noon through most sections. So basically tomorrow will be shower free and cooler air will spread across the state. Now highs around Oklahoma today look like this. We had real warm readings once again. 82 in the southwest at Lawton was the coolest, and nearby 98 Altus was the warmest. We had 84 here at Oklahoma City. Around the nation, well, very warm readings continue northward all the way up into South Dakota. 80s prevail there, 70s to the north of that. The cool area, the coolest general area in the nation, was up in the northwestern part of the country, the northern Rockies, where highs only made it into the 40s and even some 30s prevail through that area. And tomorrow we will see a bit cooler air spread in, but some 90s in the Texas area, got up to 100 at Big Bend area, and that was the warm spot in the country. On our laser facts this evening, we can see very heavy activity up to our north, particularly in eastern Nebraska. Omaha had almost 4 inches of rain with some large hail there today. On into Des Moines area, they still have some heavy thunderstorms through that region. And then showers and thunderstorms in Oklahoma, as you can see, in Arkansas, and that activity up in the Kansas area that is weakening. Also very widely scattered activity off to the east. Now on our national map, we do have a frontal system, but it's actually to our northwest. What we have in western Oklahoma is a dry line. This front will swing southeastward with cooler air spreading in, and it looks like tomorrow will be an improvement. Precipitation around the area, around the storm centers look like this. Quite a bit of heavy thunderstorm activities we're showing you on the satellite photograph with widely scattered showers to the east. Very cold air heading southward out of Canada. That will probably drift on to our east and northeast, and with that in mind, we're not really anticipating too much of a cool-off with this next front. Tomorrow will be cooler. Fronts to our east, also precipitation. Our 5-day forecast shows rather warm conditions, although we will have a front, and it'll be cooling off some tomorrow with temperatures in the 70s, then dropping into the 60s and climbing back into the 70s the first part of next week with some thunder showers once again. Our statistics today in Oklahoma City is 66 and 84, normals 49 and 72, records 30 and 90. Right now, 70, humidity 72%, pressure 2960, rising, fair skies, wind south, still gusting to 25. For tonight, partly cloudy, warm and windy, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Perhaps some of these will be locally heavy. For Friday, be fair and cooler with northerly winds by noon, should be gusting up to around 25 miles per hour. For Saturday, fair and mild. The metropolitan area, scattered showers later on tonight. Warm and windy tomorrow, will be turning fair and cooler with northerly winds by afternoon. Lows in the morning, well, they'll be dropping into the 50s and 60s. Highs tomorrow 60s and 70s. For Oklahoma City, a bit cooler with 58 in the morning, a high tomorrow of 75.
That sounds like it's going to be nice.
Acceptable.
Improvement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. In Egypt, 5 Muslims convicted of assassinating President Anwar Sadat last October have been executed. 2 of them were killed by firing squad. The other 3 were put to death by hanging. And meanwhile, Soviet President Leonid Brezhnev continues his rest and relaxation break that is customary for him at this time of year. But Brezhnev has not been seen in public for more than 3 weeks now. And speculation is rising again concerning the Russian leader's health. Brezhnev is 75 years old and said to be ailing.
Washington's efforts to get El Salvador's rightist majority to share the power is apparently falling short. The Salvadoran Constituent Assembly will be installed tomorrow, and so far it looks like the U.S.-backed Christian Democrats will have no voice in the executive branch and little, if any, voice in their cabinet. When Army Corporal Russell Gibson came out of World War I, he says he was just glad to be alive. Gibson was wounded twice in that war to end all wars, but he never got his Purple Heart until last night. Gibson, now 86, got the medal at a ceremonial dinner last night in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, 64 years after being wounded. Former Oklahoma City 89er baseball player got the big hit today.
Bob Berry is next with details of the Philadelphia Phillies' victory.
What do you think it's going to be? Hockey, basketball, baseball? What's he going to do?
Golf.
That comes later.
I knew it. That's an obvious answer.
I have to start saying every night, and in golf, you know, because we have a section every night. No, hockey tonight.
Hockey
tonight. Great.
Yes, playoffs. Semifinal, the quarterfinal rather, action of the National Hockey League playoffs. Stanley Cup began tonight in 4 locations. In one series opener, the New York Rangers beat the New York Islanders 5-4. Here's some of that action just in from NBC.
The opening period was really the Battle of New York as both teams scored 3 goals each. The Rangers then went ahead in the second period when Robbie Fatorik got loose down the left side, faked a slap shot, and then skated around goalie Billy Smith to put the Rangers ahead 4-3. With just about 4 minutes to go, John Tonelli went down the middle, took a pass from Bobby Nystrom to tie the game at 4-all. But then, with little more than a minute left, Reijo Ruotsalainen let go a long shot from near the blue line and beat Smith for the winning goal. Again, the final score, Rangers 5, Islanders 4. Stan Martin, NBC News, New York.
Don't take it so hard, buddy. The Rangers 5, Islanders 4. Boston beat Quebec 4-3. And remember, these are the first games of the best-of-7 series, so the teams that win lead the series 1-0. St. Louis and Chicago tied at 3 third period, and Los Angeles, Vancouver just beginning. In the NBA, Indiana beat Atlanta, Detroit over Cleveland by 10, and San Diego leads Portland on the coast early in the second period, 32-31. The National Basketball Association regular season ends this week. Then those playoffs begin next week, and you hardly wait. In Major League Baseball today, a former Oklahoma City 89er, Luis Aguayo, smashed a 3-run home run in the 13th inning to ice the Philadelphia Phillies' second win of the young season, an 8-4 13-inning win over the New York Mets. Here's the story from NBC.
It was a 1-1 ball game till the 6th when the Mets regained the lead. Mookie Wilson hit the first pitch high and dry into the right field stands, and the Mets had a 2-1 lead. In the Phil's 7th with 2 outs, pitcher Pat Zachary ran into trouble. Pete Rose had tripled and then scored easily when Greg Gross singled into left field, and it was 2-2. That brought up Gary Matthews, who hit a double to the fence in left center field, scoring Gross, and the Phils had a 3-2 lead, with the Mets turning on the showers for Pat Zachary. In the home half of the 8th, with Hubie Brooks on second base, Mookie Wilson singled to the opposite field and right, and with Brooks on the move, he scored the run that made it a 3-3 ball game. The Phils took a 4-3 lead in the 12th, but the Mets came right back. John Stearns was on third when Sid Monge uncorked a wild pitch. Stearns scored, and it was 4-4. In the 13th, the big blast came from the Phils' Luis Aguayo, a 3-run homer, as the Phils got 4 runs and won the ball game 8-4. Jack O'Rourke, NBC News, reporting.
Elsewhere, Pittsburgh beat Montreal 4-3. St. Louis over Chicago 6-1. San Diego leads L.A. in a night game 1-0 in the 5th inning of play. Minnesota in the American League continued to pound the Old Apple. They beat Oakland 11-5. Detroit over Toronto 4-2. Chicago, they are still undefeated. They're 5-0 now. They beat Boston Fenway Park. All those 5 wins on the road. Cleveland beat Milwaukee 8-1. California leads Seattle 1-0. That game in the 3rd. Channel 4 Sports has learned that OSU head basketball coach Paul Hansen will name John Gray as his new assistant, replacing Wayne Ballard, who left to become the new head basketball coach at Idaho State. John Gray worked with Coach Hansen when he was at OCU and will be the recruiting coordinator and administrative assistant to Coach Hansen, we've learned. In golf, speaking of OSU, the Cowboys golf team leads the Wheat Shocker Classic in Wichita by 9 shots over Oklahoma, which is in second place. The final round will be tomorrow. Lanny Wadkins leads after the first round of the Tournament of Champions in Rancho La Costa, California. Lanny Wadkins shot a 5-under par 67 a day to lead Tom Watson, Bill Rogers, and Hale Irwin by 2 strokes. The best Oklahoman in the first round was Bruce Litsky. He had a 70 today. Sandra Post leads the LPGA tournament in South Carolina with a 2-under par 70. Here is KTVY outdoor editor Don Wallace with the best times to go fishing tomorrow.
The best time to go fishing tomorrow will be
in the latter part of the afternoon, starting about 3:30, lasting until about midnight. 3:30 until midnight. Don't forget to take a kid fishing with you if you have a chance. He'll remember it all of his life. This is Don Wallace. Good luck and good fishing.
Good advice. The Oklahoma City 89ers, trying to win their first game of the year, are tied with Wichita in the 8th inning. That game in the 8th, and it's tied 6-6. Well, it appears that the All-England club will hold fast to the rules, and tennis star Bjorn Borg will have to qualify this year if he wants to play in the Wimbledon tennis tournament. Borg will apparently not accept a compromise plan presented, which was offered because he does not qualify under the rules that he must play in 10 Grand Prix tournament events per year. Borg says he'll only enter 7.
You think he'll qualify?
I don't think he will. I think he'll say, you know,
just not do it.
Whatever you say in Swedish.
Yeah, you thought Pate was going to take the Masters, too.
That's true. He finished 3rd. Wasn't
Close,
bad.
close.
Well, final word in a moment.
Finally tonight, a little something to think about. At first, doctors thought Monica Winship had only been hurt by flying glass, but later they learned she had swallowed a .22 caliber bullet that crashed through her window as she was driving home. The bullet pierced her cheek and then went through a nasal passage, causing her to swallow it. The remedy? Well, you'd think doctors would rush right in and operate. Wrong. Doctors say they're waiting for the bullet to naturally pass through her system. Now that's incredible.
I can't believe it. Swallowed a bullet.
Well, I've heard of biting it, but swallowing it's one more step, I suppose.
That's our news. Thank you for joining us.
Butch, Ben, and Robbie will wake you up in the morning on Action 4 a.m. at 6. Have a good night and sunshine tomorrow.